as Mercer just said, they have had the spoiler log for 15 minutes, which tells them where all the items are, and they've had that time to come up with the best route they could. So, let's see what they've decided. It's looking like early castle for both of them right out the gate. Well, I say early castle. Early Uncle Tunnel. Not even bothering to visit their dying uncle, just grabbing the glove, and there you go.
Well, if you never talk to him, then he never dies. They're just saving his life.
It's true. And we also do see both runners check that rock outside Link's house. That rock has a 50-50 chance of having a bomb. You saw Pikapals got it on the first try, SaltyPhry got it on the second. So about average luck for both of them there. But a few seconds for Pikapals, so get a little bit of an edge immediately out the gate.
And a little bit of a divergence here as Pikapals heads over to Agina's cave while SaltyPhry deals with the dam.
Yep. Agina's never a location you want to go immediately, but there's obviously a prize to be had here since he is going there immediately. Just like what SaltyPhry picked up out of the sunken area with that half magic.
Yeah, the half magic isn't required, but getting it this early both gives you a full magic bar to work with at the start, and then it's just a nice little thing to have throughout the seed.
Right, especially once we find, say, the fire rod or some medallions. What we did see Pikapals grab, though, was the flute. It looks like he's running right over to Kakariko to activate that, and why wouldn't you? And then Espeon in chat also calling out what I was thinking and hadn't quite said. Swamp Palace is a crystal this seed, which means Pikapals will have to pull that dam whether he wants to or not. And that would be a good time for him to route in that half magic later if he decides he wants it.
Yeah, but by that point he's likely to have, already gotten a magic refill. It doesn't hurt to have it. It depends on if you're doing Skullwoods before that. That's probably the best place to have half magic.
Yeah, that dungeon makes heavier use of the fire rod than any other except maybe Turtle Rock. So, and that's probably the number one item for half magic. Although we do see another item that works fairly nicely with half magic in the Bombos medallion up in the Lost Woods. That will be their Turtle Rock access later in the game. May also be their Ice Palace access, even though it is a pendant, if they decide they need to go in there and they haven't found the fire rod yet. But that's a bit further down the line. They're just grabbing it now because it's right there, it's free, it's in the way, why wouldn't you?
Yeah, it can be a nice way to clear out clusters of enemies as well, although you will need a sword to do that.
Yeah, you'll need a sword for that, and it does take a quarter of a magic bar, if I recall correctly, without half magic. 1/8 with. And the animation for it is slow. I think, in fact, Ether Medallion would normally be the preferred there because its animation is a couple seconds faster, even before you get into the fact that you have to watch the enemies actually burn.
So we see Pikapals go into the well just for 3 bombs, but then he buys his mitts right off the bottle vendor.
Yeah, bomb management is one of the more interesting parts of, well, some spoiler seeds at least. Others will dump 4 3-bomb chests into Blind's hideout and you don't have to worry about a thing, but in this case, he wanted that heart out of the chicken hut, and he I think he decided he would rather hold on to his rupees, or no, he's going to buy bombs. He just wanted to more cleanly route the chicken hut instead of having to walk back up. But there was a lot of money freely available to buy the bombs with early on, so not a huge issue that they're having to do that. Pika, I think, was trying to use his flute there? Yeah, sorry, buddy, you've got to do this first.
Yeah, we all have moments like that.
Yeah, it's one of those things. He walked right by it after picking up the glove, and once your mind's already gone on to what you're going to do next with those bombs you bought, easy mistake to make.
I see both runners fluting over to 8 and heading up towards Ice Rod Cave, which is the only location up this way.
We could hypothetically see fake flipper plays from Flute to 8 if they wanted to, but it doesn't look like either one's especially interested in that.
So, mandatory progression in both Ice Rod and Agana early. This would actually probably get a lot of people in a blind seed because those are frequently skipped locations.
Ice Rock Cave is a lot more frequently checked, just because of how you can combo it with the South Shore. Well, I say South Shore, that's really specifically Mini Moleworm Cave, and the fake flipper plays that I mentioned. But yeah, that would catch at least a fair few people, and I think the Flute and Nagina would actually be a lot more dangerous of a thing blind, because it's not very often that the Flute is required early, even more so when you've got a glove super early. So I could hypothetically see runners in a blind seed putting that location off until they had the flute. That combo it with the rest of Desert, Mire, and so forth.
Yeah, and there is our Dark World access, with the Moon Pearl being the only thing Pikapals is interested in here. SaltyPhry grabs some bombs as well.
Yep, Titan's Mitts, Moon Pearl will get you into the Dark World, whether it's on the mountain when combined with that hookshot, or up at the Village of Outcasts. Notably, it will not get you to the east side of the Dark World, which is the Pyramid, Catfish, and Palace of Darkness, without either the hammer or the flippers, and we haven't seen either of those yet. For now, though, it is the mountain for both these runners. And actually, SaltyPhry going into Paradox Cave, or Pikapals is right onto the Dark Mountain. Whatever Salty's getting out of Paradox Cave here, unless the mirror is in this Super Bunny Cave, Pikapals won't be able to double back for it. And looks like it was just the Canaburna.
Yeah, it could just be an occasionally useful safety. Could be a required Spike Cave check.
Pikapals does grab the sword that he needs for that Bombos medallion. But yeah, Burna may or may not be required. For a lot of uses, you can use the cape in its stead if Pikapals thinks that's required and that's easier along the route. Although while they're going through this, I'd like to ask, Espeon in chat calling out a bomb jump fake flippers, is that just the fairy revival, or is there actual new tech there that I'm not aware of? And while we wait for that, it was an Ether medallion in the Hookshot Cave, so they can get into both, well, they can't get into Turtle Rock until they find the hammer, but they've got their medallions covered for this seed from every possible angle. And I'm getting confirmation that there is new tech to get to the East Dark World that I am not aware of. Gonna need to learn about that later.
Yeah, I'll have to look that one up too. There's occasionally seeds where that sort of thing would be useful.
Yeah. It would let you skip a lot of hypothetical Aghanim requirements in seeds exactly like this one, where you've got the mitts and the pearl, but the hammers and the flippers nowhere to be seen. And if they both happen to be on or blocked behind something in Palace of Darkness, for example, that would normally be an indicator you'd have to go kill Aghanim. And from the looks of things, Pikapals may be giving us a demonstration of it. I don't know. He doesn't have a mirror, so he can't get to the graveyard ledge. And it looks like he just forgot he didn't have a mirror.
Meanwhile, SaltyPhry heading into ice via fake flippers, a sequence break, but one that most runners won't think anything of.
Looks like Pikapals is... Okay, I see how this works. He's going to explode himself, and the recoil is going to knock him to the next screen for fake flippers. Let's see. It looks pretty difficult, though.
Okay, that's incredibly cool.
Yeah, that's legit. I'm a fan. Shoutouts to Pikapals for showing off tech that I didn't know existed until like 3 minutes ago. And then while SaltyPhry makes his way through Ice Palace looking for whatever's in here, he doesn't have the hammer, so there's a number of chests he cannot reach. And it's a pendant dungeon, so he wouldn't necessarily have to clear it even if he had the hammer. And Pikapals going to Palace of Darkness. I'm just going to shout out on how cool that tech. Go give these runners a follow. They're the ones putting on the show, showing everything off here, and if you like what you're seeing, go give them those Twitch follows. They deserve them.
Yeah, absolutely. We may also find out if SaltyPhry knows about that particular piece of tech, or if Aghanim may otherwise be required.
Yeah. We've got speculation in chat that SaltyPhry may be in Ice Palace for Aga access. Although I will call out that particular bit makes no sense because logically to get into Ice Palace you have to have the flippers. Flippers would be your East Dark World access. So the only Aghanim there would be Hammer at the Pyramid Fairy. Which I guess is hypothetically a thing.
I've still never actually seen the Pyramid Fairy hammer. I've been rooting for it for a while in a seed that I'm watching and not playing.
We do have SaltyPhry taking a very painful save quit out of Ice Palace after trying to get to the hammer lock side without the hammer. That's... you hate to see that kind of thing. Just got 1 or 2 steps ahead of himself in the routing there.
I can understand it. This seed's logic is a bit of a mess.
Oh, you're being far too kind to this seed. But looks like he's going to Misery Mire with that Ether Medallion he picked up on the mountain.
Yeah, not currently able to complete it. He doesn't have the Cane of Samaria.
Which I think we did just see Pikapals pick up in Pod, didn't we?
Not yet.
Oh, right. Damn, I misread my spoiler log. I'm bad, I'm sorry. But he will be stumbling across that very shortly now that I've gone ahead and spoiled it. SaltyPhry getting about as good of a Mire 2 as you can hope for with no sword beams, no fire rod. Yeah, there's that Samaria I mentioned. Dark Basement is not Stalfos Basement. Learn to read your spoiler logs if you want to race or talk about this format, friends. And there's that Cane of Burna coming into play. I said earlier Fire Rod was the best item for half magic. Cane of Burna and Magic Cape are right up there though. More for defensive reasons than the offensive one Fire Rod gives, but if it works, it works. And there's that magic hammer that I'm sure SaltyPhry wishes he had when he was in Ice Palace.
Yeah, this is the first time I've ever actually seen a seed with hammer and mire for an open seed.
It's not especially common just because of what items do block Misery Mire. You need the flute, you need both gloves, you need the medallion, and you need a sword, and you need a way past the front gap, be that the hookshot or the Pegasus boots. Which, that's a lot of items, and with how many locations the hammer blocks in a traditional open seed, it's one of the least common and more cruel locations for it. But it does happen, as we see here.
Yeah, now that said, if Pikapals doesn't want to double dip this, he's looking at either Fighter Sword or Hammer Vitreous, which sounds very difficult.
I think if he were to fight Vitreous, well, if I were to fight Vitreous in his shoes, this would be about the lowest possible percent Vitreous fight. And it's one of those things, I've joked about this when commentating before, you can route yourself into this exact Vitreous fight if you want to, but who wants to do that? And if Pikapals keeps going, then he is a far braver man than I. In fact, let me double check damage tables real quick, see if I can find them, just to see if if Pikapal is playing Oko when he gets to Vitreous, if he goes that far. I can't remember if 6 Hearts is still Oko hungry now.
Pika's gonna bail as well. He does grab the Ice Rod, which I don't think SaltyPhry got yet.
No, that Ice Rod was fire locked. SaltyPhry could not have grabbed it if he wanted to, even if he wanted to. And yeah, Vitreous would not necessarily be an Oko fight for Pikapals, but that's still not a fight that you want to do. He can come back to that dungeon at his leisure, go clear it when he's fully decked out with whatever items and safeties he wants, because he got both items out of it already.
Yeah, which is actually going to be a pretty considerable advantage over SaltyPhry, who's going to want to go back to Mire before Turtle Rock if possible.
Yeah, but then if things like the bow and silver arrows are before Turtle Rock in the logic, then that is a perfectly reasonable thing anyways. Just having those 2 items alone makes the fight almost a joke. Anyways, we do see Pikapals making the Ice Palace play, and he does have the hammer. So we'll be able to see what SaltyPhry was in here looking for earlier once Pika gets that far into the dungeon in a couple minutes. With that Samaria grab on SaltyPhry's side, I think that the Ice Rod is the only big difference between these runners. But depending on where the logic places the weapons you want to have to fight Vitreous relative to Turtle Rock, that could be a big advantage. We actually have a check of the Waterfall Cave from SaltyPhry. We didn't see Pikapals do this before entering Ice Palace. And he's using the Moon Pearl Walk on Water glitch, which resets his state to walking when he leaves this cave and lets him check the chest just by walking right back in. It's only money, but that's 300 by a lot. Especially if you have, well, I guess he's already been inside Palace of Darkness, so he doesn't need the money to get in there, but hypothetically things like King Zora, the Super Bomb, even the digging game costs 80 rupees, or these bomb upgrades is 100.
Yeah, though he doesn't go to Zora when he's right there, so...
Yes, that 300 did put him over the edge. I didn't check what his total was when it finally finished ticking up. But we do see what SaltyPhry was looking for earlier, the magic mirror in that first hammer lock chest, and an immediate nope out. So that's highly unfortunate for SaltyPhry, going all the way there, not getting it, then having to come back to actually get it with the hammer the second time.
Yeah, due to Swamp, that mirror is very much required.
And it's just generally a very convenient thing to have when moving over the overworld regardless. Especially when combined with the flute. If you're making a check in the Dark World, you can get your check and then immediately mirror and flute to wherever your next destination is. It saves you a save input at the very least. But the question now is, what's on the mountain? What's Pikapals up here looking for? Judging by his route, looks like hair is on the menu for today. Which would be a pendant dip into our third pendant dungeon. All three of them if he really does go for it. And yeah, that fire rod, absolutely required, absolutely means it dips into all three of our pendant dungeons are required on this seed, which you hate to see that kind of thing. But looks like that is all he needs in there because nothing else is stopping him from full clearing the dungeon, so if he's just noping out, safe to assume there's nothing else there.
Yeah, it looks like he's heading towards Turtle Rock with the fighter sword, but he has the full item requirements for that with that fire rod.
Yeah, he can full clear the dungeon right now if he wants to. And it is a crystal. So yeah. If Pikapals sees this all the way through instead of just dipping and leaving, we're going to see a seed and a route where our first crystal is Turtle Rock. Who'd have thought?
Yeah, now he may just bail the same way he did with Meyer. That said, this also kind of shows that he's going in here this early, kind of shows that getting that ice rod may have been an advantage if he doesn't just bail.
Right. Although... Actually, yeah, Pikapals went to Pod before Meyer, so he had the Cane of Samaria. He could have full cleared that dungeon if he was willing to do that silly Vitreous fight. But there's Pegasus Boots, and he is not leaving.
Yeah, so the that said, I actually feel like Hammer on Trinex is a little more viable than Hammer on Vitreous.
Absolutely. The only thing I would want to call out here, though, aside from the fact that Pikapals, well, he's taking the slow route despite having the hook shot, which maybe some muscle memory just from being in here at such low percent, but we're seeing the full ride all the way around. But the thing I wanted to call out is that half magic. You can use the fire rod a lot offensively in this dungeon, especially to deal with pokies. Half magic would make that a lot nicer. On the other side, we do get our third check that is normally way out of the way in blind runs, and it's a Master Sword. So, kind of the three corners of the lower light world. The Graveyard Ledge at the far north had a sword. Agina in the far southwest had the flute. Ice Rock Cave in the far southeast had the hookshot.
Yeah, and we did see Pikapals try to route that in earlier, but he didn't have the mirror at that point.
Yeah, he could be on Master Sword here, but he's not, so it does effectively lock him into Hammer Trinex if he goes all the way there. Although, personally, I might still choose Hammer Trinex over Master Sword just because that's a fight I'm more practiced with, and it seems a little more consistent to me.
Now we do see SaltyPhry going ahead and heading back into Mire. He's going through here without the boots because of not being in Turtle Rock, where Pikapals will have boots. But he must feel comfortable with that Master Sword. I'm guessing he's not wanting to triple dip this place.
Master Sword alone does make the Vitreous fight significantly better. Even relative to Hammer, the hitbox is just so much nicer. That said, it's still a fight that I would put off if I was confident I could efficiently route doing so. He's not helping out though, so it looks like we're going to at least see him give it a good attempt.
Meanwhile, we see Pikapals heading into Mimic Cave.
There's something that's at least a little interesting in this cave, otherwise he wouldn't stop for it. But I feel like this actually might be a location. This might be the first time I've seen a Mimic Cave check in this tournament. All the races that I've watched, commentated, tracked. So, see something new every day. And you see the Hammer Dash right out, and I love that animation. The bottle in Mimic Cave, and then a blue mail in the very next big chest. That's some good safety right there.
Yeah, the green potion is very nice to have just in case this Trinex fight doesn't go flawlessly.
Yeah, the safety door helps. You can take an intentional death in that case. And there's the flippers that chat was expecting to be on Laser Bridge. Two chests, or just one chest short actually, sorry guys. The safety door will help you with out-of-magic situations, but you still have to take the intentional death, go back there, start the fight over, and who wants to do that? I wouldn't.
Alright, looks like we're going to have Master Sword plus Kana Burna. Kana Burna with half magic should make this pretty safe. Maybe laggy, though.
Yeah, I can feel the lag from here. He is getting a lot of slashes on those eyeballs that are centering on him, though. It's working out fairly well for him.
Yeah, that's very good positioning. He's going to get them all down before this cane runs out.
Pikapals did go out of his way for a piece of heart on the laser bridge. Only safety he grabbed there, but had to get the key as well. And oh, SaltyPhry, that's unfortunate.
Oh, that's brutal. And he's going to bail out.
Yeah, had the brilliant strat with the Cane of Burna there to take out the small eyes. Just wasn't able to keep the big eye far enough away. But we'll see if Pikapals fares better with Trinex here. He is going for the hammer strats, and we'll see if he can get the menu to Fire Rod. Yeah, he got that menu. That's probably the hardest part of the fight, in my opinion, actually. It's not a matter of making the fight itself more difficult, but you do lose a decent amount of time if you don't get it. And yeah, that's a Phase 1 Trinex done for Pikapals, with a little bit of magic to spare, even.
Nice hammer kill for the last phase.
Yeah, 5 hits, pretty quick. There's a lot of ways for that phase to get out of hand when you're doing the hammer specifically on account of the hitbox. And while most of them aren't especially dangerous in terms of actual runner dying, it's still going to be really slow if you let it get away from you. But he got it really nice and clean.
Yeah, now Pikapals is ahead essentially an entire Turtle Rock.
Yeah, just looking down the trackers, I don't see anything Salty has that Pika doesn't besides that Master Sword. And everything that Pika has that Salty doesn't is inside Turtle Rock. I guess there's the Cane of Burna. But
and half magic, but yeah, those are very optional items. Pikapals gets his Master Sword out of Bonk Rocks.
Yeah, that's a sword I imagine we'll be seeing SaltyPhry get once he has his boots, because that's pretty in the way. But yeah, the half magic advantage isn't going to be that big for SaltyPhry, because I think Pikapals will neutralize it at Swamp Palace. And actually, it's not even coming into play here, because he needed to grab that full magic to counter in Super Bunny Cave, so he had magic to go open Turtle Rock. He was just out.
Yeah, he had burned it fully from that fight against Vitreous.
Yep, and you only get the refill when you win the fight, sadly. Well, the good news for Pikapals is, Vitreous aside, it only gets easier from here with Turtle Rock down.
Yeah, and our runners are basically just missing the bow at this point.
As far as items needed to just clear all the crystal dungeons and Ganon's tower, yeah, that's actually accurate. It is just the bow. And the goods in Turtle Rock for SaltyPhry. So I would imagine that after Pikapals comes across that, we'll slip just straight into boss rush mode, plus or minus whatever safeties are still in the way, and maybe that Graveyard Ledge Sword for Pika. We'll see if he picks that up.
Yeah, he may choose to just route in the 4th sword location, but that one's not anytime soon.
Yeah, but just gotta trust his judgment on whether he thinks it's fat. Like, having time save from Tempered Sword would... If he went and got it immediately after Thieves Town, he'd have it for Landmolas, Argus, Vitreous, and Mothula before Ganon's Tower. And then he'd obviously have it for Ganon's Tower itself, pending wherever that 4th sword is. And then, so I guess it's just a judgment call on whether the time it takes to go to Graveyard Ledge is worth the time save on those bosses in those dungeons. I think a lot of people would say it is, but there's a reason that Pikapals is running this seat as well as he is, and I'm sitting in the commentary chair.
Oh, absolutely. So we see SaltyPhry take an intentional death in the roller room to get a few hearts back rather than just mirroring.
That makes sense. And then we get the Helmasnore pun from Blind today. It's worth noting that all of the Blind puns, all of the Ganon text, and all of the Triforce text that you normally see in regular randomizer runs has been replaced with text that, as of now, is specific to the Spoiler Log tournament. So you longtime randomizer viewers that haven't seen as many of these spoiler races, you're going to have a lot more fun with those puns and text than you're used to. And also, Chad asking if we have more fun with the spoiler seeds as commentators if we take a look. I'll give my opinion first, but I'm going to say it's a lot harder to talk about these seeds if we don't look at the spoiler log, because then we can't really make sense of what the runners are doing, why they're skipping what they're skipping, and even what they're skipping, period. When the entire point of the format is that you do have the information and you just need to puzzle it together. Do you agree with me? Do you have any different thoughts on the matter or anything you want to say, Mercer?
Yeah, I know they've tried a variety of methods with this, with giving commentators access or not. I think it'd be very difficult to call these races without the access.
Yeah, the one caveat to the commentators having access to the logs is we still don't want to go out of our way to spoil chat. We want to let you guys speculate, have your fun, and just generally have a good time watching the race and enjoying what the runners are doing. So we do have to walk that tightrope with you guys, but that's part of the fun of talking about it. In the meantime, Pikapal's right to the back of Skullwoods. As SaltyPhry is about halfway through Turtle Rot, give or take. He got the Pokey Key, and he's going on through the back side of the dungeon. Notably, did not pick up that bottle in Mimic Cave. That bottle came preloaded with a green potion. So him with half magic, I'm guessing he probably just thought he didn't really want it. Didn't really need, wasn't worth the time.
Yeah, it is also worth noting that for this tournament, unlike the normal randomizers, the racers actually can have the restream on in the background. He also took a couple bad deaths, so even without that, he'd probably feel behind. He may just not think he has time to get it.
Right. It is, you are right. They are allowed to watch, they're allowed to watch this stream, allowed to be in chat, allowed to listen to us talk, allowed to watch the other runners stream directly, basically whatever they want. The rules there mirror the vanilla no major glitches speedrun racing rules. Anyways, 0 crystals at 30 minutes for Pikapals, 3 at 38, so no sign of a bow yet, but he knows exactly where that is, so nothing's really stopping him from rushing the dungeons that he can clear without it, while he finds the time to efficiently route it in. And it looks like Swamp Palace may be next on that list for Pikapals. SaltyPhry entering the Trinex fight here. With his half magic in hand, I might actually expect to see more aggressive use of the Fire Rod against the Ice Head, rather than just the same hammer strats Pikapals used. We'll see.
Yeah, we see him using the strategy from above rather than below that Pikapals used.
Yeah, and we do see him using the Fire Rod for damage instead of just a stun there. The above strategies, commonly known as the backdoor strategies, is what other people call them. It's slightly faster if you execute it properly. Obviously a lot more difficult on account of not having a full visual on the hitboxes. But if you can pull it off, you can generally get a more consistent one cycle than you can using conventional strats. And he does get a very clean fight, both first and second phase there. And then, yeah, Pikapals inside Swamp Palace without the half magic. At this point, if he wants it, he's going to have to grab it afterwards, because I guess it's sort of hard to get from the dam down around to the Sunken Treasure unless you place your portal just right, which I was paying more attention to the Trinex fight. I didn't catch if he positioned his portal so that he could walk around it. And against my best wishes and all desires, we do see Pikapals moving to open the left side of Swamp Palace. There's actually nothing fun about this, either as a player or as a viewer. It's just cutscenes of rooms getting flooded.
Yeah, it's not even in the full west chest to let you just leave that switch flipped.
Yeah, that would be a little bit of consolation, I guess. But you'd still have to sit through all the flooding cutscenes and then make your way through these pointless rooms, and it's still just not very fun. On the other side, we do see SaltyPhry is in Thieves Town with the tempered sword that he picked up out of Bonk Rocks. He's basically following Pikapal's path at this point with sword advantage, but he is about half to two-thirds of Thieves Town and a full Skull Woods behind at this point. It's a very rough spot to be in. But we do get chat's much loved bow in left side of Swamp. Whoever asked for this, please stop.
I believe that would be me.
Mercer, please stop. Please stop sending people to left side of Swamp for actual value. It's not fun. Though I guess it could be worse. We could be sending them to Aghanim's Tower instead. That's actually the least fun location in the game. Like, as a player, sure, it's a fairly high execution segment in several rooms, but as a viewer, it feels like it's something I've seen dozens upon dozens of times before, especially since it feels like a lot of vanilla NMG runs get there and then die when they get more than a few blue balls. And there's nothing happening. There's nothing random in there unless you're playing Key Sanity.
No love for retro mode, I see.
I'll love retro when it starts getting actual serious tournament play. Like, I actually do like retro a lot, and I was kind of including it under the umbrella of Key Sanity there because it does randomize keys as well. Like, in the fall tournament, where it was an option for runners to race, most of them felt like explicitly went out of their way to avoid it.
And given that Cold Stare is not required, Pikapals is on the boss now where the sword advantage is probably going to make the biggest difference, other than maybe Ganon.
Yeah. Vitreous could be comparably big. It's basically how you approach the small puffs on Argus. It depends on decide how much sword advantage matters. With Pikapals just going with the slash strats, that's probably the the one strat where sword advantage would save the most time. But there are other strats he could have gone for that are significantly more difficult to execute, such as the poke dash so-called zero cycle strats, or the multi-puff spin strats that would have made Tempered Sword less of a big deal. Regardless, he does get it, a few fire rod shots, a spin, and he's picking up his crystal just after SaltyPhry finishes Thieves Town and gets that crystal.
He is going to mirror to grab this half magic.
Yeah, it's about the best time to do it. Like I said, that portal is about half as wide as the walkway out of the dam, so getting around that, kind of questionable. But with that bow pickup on the left side, in a traditional rando we call this go mode, but since they've known where everything was from the start, it'd just be more accurate to say Pikapals is done collecting items at this point, unless he wants additional safety.
I'm pretty sure he'll grab at least one more, but we'll see.
Well, there is a potential Tempered Sword to be grabbed at some point. There's also the silver arrows are still missing in action. So that's 2 items right there I could see.
And you will see it, because there's the silver arrows.
Yep, that's 1, so... But anything else for Pikapals at this point would just be safety and consistency as he goes to finish out, get his remaining crystals, finish his run. But we do see the value of that Tempered Sword. SaltyPhry getting a really nice Mothula kill there. And Pikapals spawning all 4 skeletons in that skeleton room. There is a specific path that you can walk that will cause 2 of them to despawn, and you can kill the other 2 with pots or sword beams or something before they actually appear, which makes that room look really cool to somebody who doesn't know the trick to how it works. But he doesn't get that strat and just kills all 4 of them and moves on with his life. And then Pikapals is going all the way across. If I remember the spoiler log correctly, this is a vanilla Big Key in Eastern Palace, which is just far out of the way, but not as bad as some other isolated dungeon locations. So while Pikapals makes his way to the Armos Knights, SaltyPhry goes into Swamp Palace. I'll shout out again, if you like the race you guys are seeing, follow the runners here on Twitch. Also, shoutouts to the tracker, Dimensive. If you like that, follow him too. Hello, in chat asking why SaltyPhry is not opening the dam chest. He's not opening that chest because this is a spoiler log race, which means he was given the spoiler log for this seed 15 minutes before the race started. And as a result, he knows exactly what's in that chest. He knows that chest is not valuable, and it would just be a waste of time to... In fact, just because we won't be seeing that chest is a single green ruby. I don't think anybody would open that chest if they knew that was what was inside.
And Pika's now just the Meyer Desert combo away from getting to his 7th crystal.
Yeah, the back of Misery Mire is a bit of a walk regardless of how you do it. I cannot remember if he picked the big key out of the spike chest his first time through, but that's directly in his way. And then, yeah, Desert Palace is a very quick dungeon by almost any definition, as long as the big key isn't vanilla. And even then, that's just a speed bump more than anything. So, we are 50 minutes into this seed, which a lot of better seeds would be wrapping up right within the next couple minutes here, which is really a testament to how garbage this seed was from a routing perspective. Pikapals has played about as clean of a game as you could ask for here, and his routing has been on point in a lot of ways, and he's still 2 crystal shy being able to enter Ganon's Tower.
Yeah, the sub 50 seed I don't think's happened yet in the bracket stages of this tournament, but there were a number of sub 50 qualifier seeds. We're on pace for about 110, 115?
I think 110 would be a good target here.
It depends on the big key location, which I actually have not looked at, but...
Actually, I looked at it, but I cannot remember it, so I'm still going to abstain from guessing alongside chat when the time comes, but... regardless... we are headed towards the Vitreous fight. Pikapal's still on just the Master Sword, but he does have the silver arrows, and 11 of these will make this fight a joke. Chat asking how SaltyPhry ended up so far behind. Probably he had two things in this run that I would say were actual big time losses. First, he tried to fight Vitreous early on and took a very unfortunate death. And then second, he had a very early dip of Ice Palace. He was looking for the Magic Mirror, but the Magic Mirror was behind the hammer, which was in Misery Mire itself. And he did not have the hammer when he went into Ice Palace, meaning he could not reach that mirror and had to go back for it later. And that was a minute or two loss on its own, just having to redo that.
Yeah, there were a couple of other little things, but those are kind of the 2 big factors in this race. He also didn't get fire before going to Mire, which kind of forced that entry for Ice Rod.
Yeah, when it's all said and done, between not having fire when he entered Misery Mire the second time, or the first time, and the death to Vitreous when he entered the second time, he's going to have a triple dip of Misery Mire. And then there is one other thing worth shouting out. This isn't so much something that SaltyPhry did wrong, so much as Pikapals just did brilliantly. Pikapal showed off some recently discovered tech using a bomb to fake flipper to the east side of the Dark World from the west side. And he had significantly more efficient routing by doing that. He was able to take a fire source on his first dip into Mire, and he was able to get the Cane of Samaria out of Palace of Darkness at that time, which didn't really pay off big immediately. But, like I said, it did make his routing a fair bit more efficient and saved him a little bit of time over SaltyPhry, who used more conventional routing to get to the East Dark World.
Yeah, this would still be a lot closer. SaltyPhry was only about 2 hammer hits away from finishing Vitreous off when he took the death. If he had gotten that, I think this would be pretty close.
Yeah, Pikapals did just pick up the 7th crystal, but if he was able to successfully get that Vitreous kill, he'd only be this Eastern Palace clear behind instead of what you see on the track. Actually, has he cleared desert yet? I thought he did, but I could
Oh, no, he hasn't. Okay, yeah, so
Yeah.
that's not all the gap, but that's a lot of it.
Yeah, he would just be this Eastern Palace and Desert clear behind instead of additionally having to make the long walk through Mire. We'll have the silver arrow when he wants to take his revenge on Vitricus, though.
Guesses that because Pikapals is heading up the mountain towards Ganon's Tower. We need a specific location name, not a number, because Pikapals knows where it is. I know you mentioned you had already looked. I have not, so I'm going to take a guess of the vanilla location because I'm mean.
That's fine. You also said earlier you were the guy that kept wanting to send them to the left side of Swamp Palace, so it logically follows.
And guesses are going to be closed here as Pikapals enters the tower.
Do keep in mind that there's no prize for guessing correctly except the prize of pride and maybe getting shouted out by one of us. So if you win, you win, cool. If you lose, no big deal. The odds were significantly against you anyway. And 2 keys entering the Stalfos room for the magic powder, but the key is also here. That's actually a fairly nice powder location. You can grab it and you can have it for the upstairs where there are several anti-fairies to use it on. Also scanning through chat, it looks like nobody guessed correctly. Sorry chat, you all lose. SaltyPhry now up to 5 crystals. Just has the Desert Mire combo left, and the big key is on the torch in Desert Palace, so that's going to be just simple walks through both of those.
And we're going to see Pikapals start to go through the gauntlet.
Yeah, silver arrows are good, although sometimes the Stalfos like dodging them in obnoxious ways. We did see an instance where Tempered Sword would have saved about a second or so on that red Sizak, whatever they're called, but that's still peanuts. Does get the spike hit there to kill that second one in just 1 slash. Always nice.
And through the land mode 2 fight in 3 arrows and walk right out.
Yep. If you want a better fight than that, you better learn how to count frames, because that's the only way you're getting it. And some Maria strats in these Wizrobe rooms here. I've seen them dozens, if not hundreds of times by now, and I have done them myself a huge number of times as well. but they will never stop being impressive. Just such a cool way to use that item.
Yeah, that's basically the first strat I picked up from watching these races, and it feels very satisfying to do.
Yeah, absolutely. The second Wizrobe room does take a little bit of practice to get the slash on the fourth one, just because of how they're laid out. But just that makes it all the more satisfying when you get it right.
And a tempered sword in Moldorm's chest for Pikapals, the last item location in the game.
He very clearly thought skipping the Graveyard Ledge sword and just grabbing this one at the last possible second was worth it. And judging from his play through the tower and through the boss fights previously, I'm inclined to agree with him. Does get that double on the first phase. That was a little bit sketchy. And gets the triple there, cleans up Aghanim 2 in 3 phases. Anything better than that is a special occasion, so props to Pikapals for getting that cleanly.
Yeah, it wouldn't even have been possible here because he fired a blue ball in the second cycle.
Right. The RNG required to get a 2-phase Aghanim 2 is really special. You can't get the blue balls anywhere. He has to line up properly so that you can actually get both triples. And then he also has to line up properly so that none of the triples only count as doubles. Because if you hit him on the same frame, if you hit him twice on the same frame, then it only counts once, because this game is well done. And Ganon giving us the reminder, blame Synack for everything. It was his fault. He wrote the bot.
I don't know, are you just going to let Ganon escape responsibility like that?
I don't think Pikapals is letting that happen. He cleaned out both of those first 2 phases in 1 cycle apiece, and he's got it with the Silver Arrows, a very easy fight from here, as long as he doesn't fall. SaltyPhry having a little bit of trouble with the land molas there. Missed them all on the first cycle. Does clean it all up on the second and third though, and will get his 7th crystal. So SaltyPhry is just to climb up the mountain and Ganon's tower away from the fight Pikapals is in now, as Pikapals puts the 4th arrow into Ganon. Get your GGs in chat. And yeah, after the long sword animation, Pikapals crosses the bridge. He finishes with a time of 1:03:18.
The Triforce apparently is not satisfied with how complex this seed's logic was and wants you to go play cross world entrance randomizer key sanity.
The Triforce is a liar. I don't care what it has to say. Also, chat saying that the 3-tile bridge is treacherous. Yes, but we have seen runners fall at that step and lose races because of it. So,
I believe that happened in top 8 of one of the tournaments.
Yes. Kyong fell after killing Ganon against Christos. Went on. It would have been the 2-0 if he crossed the bridge. Went on to lose the match and the series. Anyways, we have Pikapals here with us after winning that. GG, man. How you feeling?
Hey, thanks. I'm feeling pretty good about that one.
I just want to say thank you for that bomb jump fake flipper. It was mentioned in chat a few minutes prior as a possibility. That was the first I'd learned that it existed. So thank you for showing it to us today.
Fun fact, I learned that bomb jump roughly 5 hours before the race. And I was not planning on using it until about 15 minutes into the race, when I realized I didn't have a fire source for Meyer.
Yeah, this seed was a routing mess in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I'll be honest, I was fully expecting to lose this race because my route felt terrible. And then I realized that the bomb jump over to pod might actually be fast, so I was like, maybe I've got a shot.
Yeah, I think that bomb jump really made your route about as good as it could have been on this mess, given the time you had to prepare it. So that really worked out in your favor.
Yeah, I'm really glad I took the time to learn that this afternoon. I had a feeling it would come in clutch sometime in this spoiler log tourney, but I didn't realize it would be so soon.
Yeah, that's always good to hear. Fresh tricks are always the best ones.
Yeah, I'll just have to maybe get it a little more practice so I don't waste 4 or 5 bombs going for it.
Yeah, it looked like it was mostly just a matter of you trying to go a little too soon with it. The bomb was falling into the water before exploding. But that's something that you can fix with a little bit of practice, and I have no doubt you'll have it a lot cleaner the next time.
Yeah, for sure. In my practice, I was usually getting it late more often than not, so I overcorrected a bit.
I know how that feels.
Yeah, I think we all do. Yeah, next you'll have to show off the other new piece of tech I've heard about with the old arm bounce.
No, thanks, I'm good. I'll take my hook shot. I do want to show off Aga Dark Rooms at some point, so I really hope that comes up, but it hasn't yet.
Aga Dark Rooms are just, for the most part, I wonder why anybody would bother. Then the Go Mode item is on the Lumberjack, and I'm like, yeah, that's actually a thing.
Pretty much. There's been I think I've generated 2 practice seeds where I think Aga Tower Dark would be worth it. And even then, it was one of them was just Lampin Sea Hut, which I just didn't feel like going for at the time.
How many of those seeds that you generated had Turtle Rock as your first crystal?
You know, I think this might be the first one I've been stupid enough to try that on.
Well, you did a really good job getting through it. So
yeah, I'm really glad. After I realized I was going to be doing the bomb jump over to pod, I was suddenly thinking oh god, I could do Meyer the first time I'm in it. You know what? That's probably slower than just coming back later. I'll come back later.
Yeah, I was about to ask if you had given any thought to doing it that time. You did seem pretty determined to leave when you did.
Yeah, the thought I put into it was me thinking about it during Ice Palace, and then deciding, and then noping out when I finally reached Meyer.
I'm personally of the opinion that Trinex is a much, much easier fight than Vitreous on any given set of equipment. Or any given legal set of equipment, let's put it that way.
Oh, Silver Arrow with that. Yeah, other than Silver Arrows, Hammer Trinex actually isn't that bad once you get the hang of it.
Yeah, I legitimately think the hardest part of that fight is the menu to the fire rod, so...
Yeah, I said it's the worst part of that.
Yeah, but that comes after you've put hours of practice into that fight and are experienced with it, so... Maybe I'm being a bit misleading for people in chat that have not done that.
Yeah, the Ice Head Like, the real problem is that unless you have half magic or want to be risky with your magic, you're going to be the ice head is probably going to get a shot off, which can really screw things up.
Yeah, half magic was actually something I was interested in. You put that off until after Swamp Palace. Did you put any thought into potentially grabbing that earlier? Say at the very beginning of the game when you were walking to Agina, or was that just something that you never had in mind?
I thought about it, but it was too late. I think I didn't think about it until I was in Mini Moldorm Cave, and then I was like, maybe I should grab it for Turtle Rock, but just grab the green potion instead. Honestly, I think draining the swamp for half magic probably was the right decision, just right away, but it happens.
Yeah, and it was a decision that SaltyPhry made, so it was a point of divergence that I was a little curious about.
Yeah, that's definitely understandable, because it was a good minute into the seed, and I was still freaking out about the route overall, so I didn't have time to worry about whether half magic early would have been better yet.
Yeah, that's understandable on this seed. I think the other main point of divergence was the Graveyard Ledge Sword, which you went for before the bomb jump and before the mirror, which was a little unfortunate, then never went back for. SaltyPhry did grab that, has a golden sword in his Ganon fight right now. So he had the real easy time getting through the first two phases.
Now, the worst part is I got the easy Ganon spot for the 1-in-1 for part 2, but unfortunately just lost the rhythm, I guess. But yeah, getting that last sword on Graveyard Ledge, I was debating about it, and then I figured the only boss it's going to save significant time on is Argus, and kind of forgot that Gauntlet is a pain with Tempered Sword. Or with Master Sword, rather.
Yeah, but from where I'm sitting, it looked to me like you played that pretty cleanly as was, and there wasn't really any point aside from Argus, it looked like, where Tempered would have saved significant time. Maybe Moth, maybe.
Yeah, Moth is kind of what happens anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And get your GGs in chat as SaltyPhry finishes up.
Yep, he finishes with a time of 1:12:04. Had a few unlucky aspects to his run, but we'll pull him in and get his thoughts. And hello, SaltyPhry. GG.
Hi, GG. GG, Pikapals.
GG.
Yeah. Had a little bit of a tough run there, but
yeah,
you recovered well in a lot of places.
Yeah, it was kind of a mess early. Well, early on was all right, but then I overlooked a couple of things, which really kind of cost me, and then I tried to fix those things, which kind of only made the situation worse. Like, I kind of overlooked that, like, overlooking the fact that I needed the hammer to go get the mirror and ice created a big problem when I got all the way there and then realized that was kind of a big thing. And then I got to Meyer and I realized a fire source to get ice. Like, it's just so, like, in a seed like this where you got all these items and all these different dungeons, just so easy to overlook small little things like that. Like, you think about it, you're like, oh, I got all the things I need to get into Meyer, so I can obviously go in there and get everything, right? You just completely forget about the fact, no, you don't have fire source, you can't get those things over on the left side. Like, looking back at it, there's obviously a lot of things I could have done a lot differently. I definitely would have got the fire rod on my first trip to Death Mountain, because then I would have been able to easily get that ice rod, and that would have solved a lot of problems as well.
I don't think you could have gotten the fire rod on your first trip to the mountain, could you have? You didn't have the mirror.
No mirror, no hammer.
Oh, right, yeah. Yeah, you see, like, that's the kind of thing with a seed like this, is there's just all these little things like that, they're just kind of screwing with you, right? Yep. I just made a couple massive little mistakes, and then I tried to fix them in some way or another, and that only made things worse, because I figured I'd go try to kill Vitreous, and originally I was thinking, like, how do I want to do this without taking forever? So I was thinking I'd go stock up on a bunch of bombs, and then I'm like, no, that'll take too long, let's just go get this Master Sword instead. And then I died anyway, which felt terrible, so yeah, it was just kind of a mess.
Yeah, I did like the Cane of Burnistrat you used on the first phase, though. I don't think I've ever seen it applied quite that way, but it did wind up working out really well for you, even if the second half went a little bit south.
It went all right. The problem was I was in one-hit KO mode the whole time, and then I just kind of accidentally missed one hammer hit that might have actually been the last one to kill him. I'm sure I was awfully close to killing him at that point in time, and hit
It was
me
either one or
instead.
two.
Yeah, because I felt like I definitely got a good 12 or 14 hits in at that point in time, so he had to be close to dead. But yeah, well, that's how it goes sometimes. It is what it is. I have an amazing ability to kind of just screw things up horribly every once in a while, and it happened in my first match of round 1 and happened again here. So cross my fingers it doesn't happen in game 3 now.
Yeah, just shrug it off, move on. Next one will go better for you.
Yeah, I'm pretty easygoing. I just move ahead and kind of forget about it. It's not the end of the world. It's just a game in the end. So yeah, I'm just here to have fun, and I just try to forget about it. And
Yeah. Speaking of Game 3, have you guys scheduled that yet?
no, we haven't. We scheduled the first 2 and figured we'd schedule game 3 if necessary. So it looks like we're gonna have to do that.
All right. I'll be looking forward to it.
Yeah, I sure don't think I've had a good seed in this tournament yet, so maybe third time's the charm, right?
Yeah, you'll get that pyramid hammer someday.
Oh, good. That's exactly what I was looking for. Another excuse to bomb jump over to East Tark World.
Does that one even work with the Super Bomb?
Well, I guess Pyramid Fairy wouldn't work. Well, that would be a good question, because you shouldn't lose the Super Bomb until you jump off, which means you should be in Fake Flipper, so you should be able to screen transition before the bomb goes off, so in theory it would, but walking all the way over there sounds not worth it.
Yeah, that's what... Even if you've got the boots and the hook shot, that's still like a minute and a half walk, isn't it? That would get you halfway up
Yeah.
Aga Tower.
Yeah, I feel like at that point, if you're going for Camera Pyramid Fairy, you're just going to have to suck it up, do Aga.
Yeah, which is sad, because I was saying earlier in the race that I thought, as a viewer, Aga Tower was the single most boring location in the game, even more so than the left side of Swamp.
Yeah, it's definitely a few minutes of just run through the dungeon and basically do NMG for a bit.
Right. And there are several rooms in there that are decently high execution. So from a runner perspective, it's not quite that bad. There's a lot to do. But as a viewer, I've seen it dozens of times before. There's no checks.
That's why you do Key Sanity. It makes it a little more interesting. You never know what's in those first 2 chests.
That's a fair point. Key Sanity is special.
All this love for Key Sanity, I'm the only one who really loves retro.
I'm telling you, man, I enjoy retro a lot, but it's just doesn't seem to be as popular with the community as large, as evidenced by the fall tournament.
All you really need to do is listen to the Triforce, just do cross keys, and everything's fine.
No comment.
No, thank you. Any other comments on the seed from either of the runners before we close this one out?
I'd rather just forget about this one and move on, to be honest. So I'll just kind of leave it at that.
Yeah, I mean, the seed was actually really interesting, but God, was it a pain to route and execute and everything.
I don't even want to know how this would have actually played out in a regular race as well. It feels like it would have been a real mess as well.
I think this would have been the kind of seed that even good runners would approach 2 hours with in a normal run.
Yeah, possibly, but honestly, it might have felt better still.
But I definitely agree with the notion that this seed is best off forgotten in the long run.
Well, I'm sure you'll get one to remember for your Game 3. I'm going to look forward to watching that one.
Anyways, with this race completed, there actually are no more spoiler tournament races on the schedule until Friday the 19th, which is 5 days from now. That will be Kyong vs. Wolfie at 8 p.m. Eastern. Channel and restream information to be determined. But looking at speed gaming schedule for the rest of the evening, Zelda 1 Randomizer started about 20 minutes ago on Speed Gaming 5. And that looks to be about it for Speed Gaming for the rest of the night. So if you're interested in Zelda 1 at all, check that out. It's sure to be a good time. But other than that, pretty light night. Enjoy your evenings, everybody.